all-new episode of the Jeremy White Podcast, Tuesday at noon. Available wherever you stream. Catch up on past interviews and episodes on demand now. Subscribe so you don't miss any of it.
Well, listen, let's get right into this. And I don't know, how much time do we have with you, Rick, today? Like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, good?
Yeah, whatever you guys want. I don't have anything else after this, so whatever you guys need. Actually, sorry to interrupt you. Nice little story. But I remember the same event where I met Charlie Watts. I met Phil Collins at the back door of, I believe it was, what's the big round building in London? What's
the O2.
No, the really old building.
The Royal Albert Hall?
Yes, the Royal Albert Hall. And Phil Collins just happened to be at the backstage door when I walked in. And he happened to be one of the first letters that I opened, a letter of encouragement while I was actually still in hospital in 1985. So,
wow.
So if you get to see him, please send him my love and regards.
Do you remember what he said in the letter?
Just incredible words of encouragement. I mean, there were hundreds of thousands of letters, but his stood out because, he obviously knew what it would be like, or he had an inkling of what it would be like to be a drummer and to be involved in something so horrific.
Right.
So it just meant that much more.
Hey, can I just ask you real quick about, sorry, John, I'm going to cut you off a second, but
go ahead.
The guys in the band, Phil and Joe and stuff, they could have just changed drummers. They could have, but they stuck with you. And in this industry, people get cast aside for all kinds of nonsense, but they stuck with you. 40 years later, how important is that your confrère, your brothers said, nope, you're our drummer. We're going to stick with you. Because that's sensational.
Well, the way it went was, I got out of hospital within a month, and I spent a couple of weeks at home. There was never any talk of any kind of therapy or anything like that. At 21 years old, I that wasn't what I signed up for. I was still full of beans and, ready to go. And I think the thing that the guys did for me, which took the pressure off, was they gave me time to make the decision whether I wanted to move forward or not. And that was really the sort of, the crux of what I was dealing with was, did I just want to disappear and sort of blend into the scenery, or did I want to, go on and, love of family, love of people all over the planet. I really just discovered the power of the human spirit, and that's what really catapulted me into, where I am now.
Right. I want to play you a clip for a second because we're on the topic, and I want to get your thoughts on this. This is a bit of a throwback clip, and let me know what you think.
He was actually, I could see that he was really down. I mean, he was trying to keep a pretty brave face, but he was prostrate. I mean, really prostrate at that point, not knowing which limbs were going to work, that's all. And then I just mentioned to him that he could conceivably, if he could get his right hand to work again, he could actually play the drums by repeating the sounds on the top and the bottom. And he then, as he lay there, he started just doing that thing with his limbs. And I could actually see almost a light shine, in his eyes, in terms of that. He thought, yeah, that's actually the one way out of it, And literally from that day on, in my perception, the few times I saw him, he had a cause. And then I actually mentioned it to the band. And I said to Peter Mensch, I said, Rick really could play. If it's just going to take time. We were going to record the album, so he had a lot of recuperative time. And of course, nobody was discounting that, but in the back of everyone's minds, they weren't quite ready to believe it.
And I can see you smiling and nodding and hearing that. I mean,
no, that's so cool, because I just discovered that interview 2 days ago, and Mutt never gives interviews.
No.
I know, we've tried.
Yeah, I know. So the fact that he was talking about it the way that he was, and I remember the meeting we had. He came to see me in hospital, and actually, you know, the hospital's idea of vegetarian food was just kind of take the meat off, you know. He came in and he said, you know, Rick, we need to get you some real food. And he actually got this Hare Krishna couple to come up from Watford, and they came to the hospital and they started cooking for me. It was fantastic because the entire hospital ward smelled like an Indian restaurant. It was brilliant. And that was a huge step in the right direction toward my recovery. And Mutt was very instrumental in making that happen. So I'm eternally grateful to Mutt for doing that. And yes, I remember that conversation, and I do remember that aha moment where the light bulb went on, and I realized that yes, I can do this. So and that's the power of the human spirit.
Yeah, it's so incredible. I mean, just hearing him talk about it, and I mean, like, I can only imagine what was going through in your mind at the time. It's like whether or not you're even going to live, but it's like I'm sure playing drums, it was, you know, not at the forefront of your thoughts.
Not at all. As I said, you know, having been in a coma for a couple of 3 weeks, and during that time, you know, they put my arm back on and then took it off, all during that same time period, and me not knowing a thing about it. So, you know, when I came round and started to get an idea of what had actually happened to me, I remember at a certain point, I was like, I don't want to do this. I felt way too self-conscious. I felt completely defeated. And then, you know, I guess I woke up in a way that allowed me to see past, you know, the situation I found myself in. And then once I started actually playing drums again, I got it, and I realized that I could actually do this, and Mutt recognized that.
Talking about Mutt Lange, I've always been curious about this. I mean, you know, at this point, I've done really in-depth interviews with Phil and Joe talking about recording Hysteria and the techniques that were used, you know, with the synclaviers and the Fairlights and the Rockmans and all this and all that. I've always wanted to know, when you guys were recording those records, when Mutt and Mike Shipley were putting together the drum samples and all this and all that, did you have any say in the tone of your drums on those records?
Yeah, because I had to tune them. I got very good at. So what we would do is we would actually create sounds that were larger than life. So, you know, for instance, a snare drum wouldn't necessarily be a single snare drum sample. It would be several snare drum samples. And depending on what type of song, we would add hand clap sounds and all these different things that created this push and pull sort of motion as the song evolved. A song like Women or Pour Some Sugar on Me. So yes, the sounds themselves were quite complex, but they kind of evolved over the period of time that we spent, you know, recording the records, and by the time we got to mixing, you know, we had sounds that were just monstrous.
Right. Yeah, because I'm a bit of a recording nut, and like those records I've listened to top to bottom more than any other. And I remember reading an interview with Mike Shipley where he's talking about how you guys had like like 8 different snare drums in the studio and sampling them, trying to get like the right tone and different tunings. And he had like a Black Beauty in there. But then like the actual sound that ended up on the record was like a stack of 7 different sounds put together kind of thing.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Mike was very innovative, but really taking his cues from Mutt Lange, who obviously heard something in his head and sometimes couldn't quite convey it until he heard it. So we would go around the houses so many times, with different sounds until we found something that it was his sort of aha moment,
Yeah. So that's what I mean, though. It's like when you listen to those drums, it's like, did you sit there and like, maybe it's a little too cannonball-y, or maybe we should dial back the reverb a bit, or you were like, oh, that sounds freaking amazing. We're doing that.
I mean, it all sounded great to me, as we're going through it. But then it became really obvious as we lived with those sounds, what combinations worked for what type of songs.
Right. Yeah, because like you said, you listen to Women, and like the main driving snare in the verse is the big spread clap sound, and then in the chorus, it's a little bit more contained to fit into the mix. And yeah. It's interesting how you guys were even able to pull that off. I mean, with the technology and everything, it sounds incredible to this day, because that's what everybody's pop records sound like.
It's true, but back in the day, we were using tape, and I remember, before we make slave reels, some of the tapes they've been over or gone over so many times because of overdubs that you could actually see through the tape.
They just deteriorated so much.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Wow. That's amazing.
Wow. That's incredible. And then just to talk about, like the recording of the drums and stuff like that. I mean, were you sitting there and Mutt was telling you, like, okay, you need to be a little bit more tighter on the hi-hat? Like, what kind of direction would Mutt give you in the studio performance-wise?
Again, it would depend on the song. Sometimes we'd lean heavier on electronics. And then other times it would be, me sitting behind a drum kit with, say, just the cymbal setup, and playing along to stuff that I'd either recorded or programmed. So it was really dependent on what type of song we were playing, and and that would determine which direction we went.
Yeah. Was there ever any like full like one take performances on the record, or was it like a hi-hat section and then you'd sit behind the cymbal kit and just hit the cymbals? Or
that's pretty unheard of with Mutt, especially. It was like take after take after take after take after take. I mean, literally, sometimes one section would take us, a whole afternoon or a whole day. Depending on how much importance we put on that particular song, how hooky we wanted the thing to be.
Yeah, but even that, I mean, if you're sitting behind your hi-hat and then you guys like, oh, I think you were a little late on the end of the 3. We need to do that again.
Yes, that happened many times, and there were many drumsticks thrown across the studio. Yes, I'm not very proud of that, but it happens. I was learning new things about myself, and he was obviously pushing the limitations of my ability. So it was kind of a learning curve every single day that I went in there.
Yeah. You just had some art shows in New Jersey. I heard they went really well. You got new ones in Atlanta on December 11th and 12th. And, of course, the big charity auction for Raven Drum just wrapped up last night. I was bidding on the Joey Kramer snare drum, and somebody outbid me with like 1 minute left, and I didn't get the email in time.
No, you know what? I was really happy. It's interesting. I discovered a support system within the drumming community that I never really knew that I had. I reached out to, people that I knew, Todd Sushman being one of those people.
From Styx.
Yeah. And just, Todd he's one of those guys that he's always supportive of me. And he just immediately said yes. But then as time went on, modern drummers started helping me look for people. And I've actually become really close with some of the coolest drummers on the planet. And now I feel as though I have this support system that just they love me, and I was like, wow.
Well, how could they not? Come on.
This is crazy, I guess, when you're as busy as I am, you just, you never really get the time to sort of sit back and enjoy that part of the industry, the camaraderie. But, we're in different times.
Yeah.
So I've discovered all these drummers that, I can literally pick up the phone or text them, or it's fantastic. So I'm very blessed.
Listen, for the next one, if you get anything from Alex Van Halen, you will have my credit card number immediately. So
it just so happens.
Well, you're going to like this, Jeremy. I was talking to Steve Brown the other day, and he goes, "Oh, I just got off the phone with Alex Van Halen." I was like, "Oh, damn. What? Can I be you? Can I be you for a minute?" Yeah. So, yeah. And by the way, we love Steve. He's of course done a few gigs with Def Leppard. You gotta love the guy. He's one of the greatest guys you'll ever meet.
No, it's really cool. No. I love the fact that he not only did he step up for Vivian, but then
for Phil when his wife had her thing.
Yeah, and that was really touch and go, So the fact that he's played on both sides of the stage, and done it quite convincingly, I might add. I really appreciate him.
Tip of the hat. In terms of the art, tell me about the process, because creatively, when you write a song or you do a drum part, that's sort of one part of the creative mind. Talk to me about the creative mind that goes into the art. Where does the concept come from? How do you get it onto canvas or onto a visual display? What's the process that you go through?
Cool. Well, with the Legends series, it's really me paying homage to all the people that inspired me growing up. And I dare say that, if it wasn't for a lot of these incredible legends, musicians, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. I wouldn't be, playing music at the level I am. And from that point, like with Eddie Van Halen, we lost him, and it was me paying homage to his family and to the millions of fans, worldwide. And, the fact that, I was also really, really affected by him in terms of his guitar playing. So it was a massive loss. And then I just kind of dug around and found an image that I really liked, a photograph that I really liked, that really, really just captured that infectious smile, when he was on stage.
And there's so many great photos that you could choose from, and that art piece that you did was phenomenal. I mean,
no, it's great. It was the smile. It was him in his element. And from that point, I take the photograph and then I posterize it.
Right.
And that's the easiest way for me to sketch that onto canvas. For instance, if you look at a lot of the Legends pieces that I do, or all of them, when you look closely at the piece, the shapes, they look like geometric shapes and they don't particularly make any sense. But then when you step back, your mind fills in the blanks. And I kind of got that from, Salvador Dali. He did that really successfully, where, you could look at the piece close up and it was one thing, and then you stood back or squinted your eyes, and then it became something completely different.
Well, another great artist was Georges Seurat with pointillism. I mean, you look at Sunday Afternoon on the island of La Grande, and it's like up close, it's just dots on canvas. But then you stand 10 feet away, and it's this incredible mural.
Yeah, and that's really the trick, as it were, is allowing your mind to fill in all the blanks, and that's the one technique that I've started to really perfect. So from that point, I'll create a grayscale. I'll create blacks, whites, grays. Normally break the grays out into light and dark grays, and then a piece like Jimi Hendrix, it was obvious it needs purple, So at that point, the acrylic paint really comes in handy, where you create color that conjures up the right sort of mood for the artist that you're painting.
Mm-hmm. So are you sitting there with your easel and you're mixing your colors and everything? It's funny because I studied creative arts in college and I hated it. I think it's because of my teacher, but you talking about it is way more interesting.
Well, I wasn't formally trained, so the few things that I picked up along the way, they've served me really well.
So like that piece, for example, you're
talk about those. When it comes to realism, forget it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. It's like you look at your St. Charlie there, and it's like it's brilliant. I mean, you look at the color swells. I mean, even in the corners and the details. I mean, where do you start with that? Do you start with the sketch of Charlie and then come up with the concept behind, or do you work back to front?
Yeah. That's exactly. Really, it was the grayscale and just coming up with Charlie. A classic. Yeah. A classic image of Charlie that for me, this conjures up serenity. It conjures up, him being content. He seemed like the most grounded Rolling Stone there was.
Yeah.
I just needed to capture that. And then once I got that, I kind of realized that I wanted to conjure up him feeling content and having played drums with the Rolling Stones for 50 odd years or whatever. His job was done, and he did it really well, and he was happy moving on to the next part of his journey, and that was really the whole blue in the corner. To me, it conjures up the earthly plane, and then this sort of portal, this halo effect. I wanted him to be kind of moving on from the earthly plane and then heading off on his journey to go play with the big rock band in the sky.
Well, I was going to say it almost looks like he's hitting light speed in the Millennium Falcon or something, Well,
but that's the interesting thing about art, because I see it more as a Jesus image in a sense. I see it more as in a religious kind of way rather than heading off into space. So that's what isn't that what's great about art and great about songs? I mean, the way I Pour Some Sugar on Me is different than the way you take it, and
Absolutely. That's what I love about art, is that, everybody has a different take on it. Everybody has a different spin on it. And to speak to what you just said, I named the piece St. Charlie. So and to most drummers, that's what he is. That's what he'll always be, because to many of us, it's the first time we really got a taste of rock music and a rock drummer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let me ask you about where the art started from, because you look at, Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, John Waite, so many, they all draw on the side and they paint on the side. And is that something that you grew up with in school, or is it something as you got into Def Leppard and you just go, you know what, I need a hobby? Is this something that comes from childhood, or comes from like, listen, we're off tour, I got nothing to do, fuck it, I'll paint?
A bit of both, really. I loved painting when I was young, because I could never get my head around numbers properly. I think there was a bit of ADHD going on there.
Creative minds can't do school. It's just
no, I know. No, it was really weird. And then my grandfather got me my first camera when I was about 7 or 8. And then, of course, I got involved with Def Leppard. I joined Def Leppard around about my 15th birthday, and that kind of consumed me for many years.
A long time.
And then my soon-to-be 11-year-old, she was born, and it wasn't long before the two of us started painting together. And it just kind of reminded me of that time at school where I could just lose myself in it. And that coupled with this incredible opportunity to travel with Def Leppard and pretty much see every country on the planet, and being able to take in that life experience. Not too many people get to do that. So, with my little bit of knowledge of painting, and then also my vast life experience, I was able to document that in a way that that's become really quite rewarding as I'm getting older.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that fact. I want to just touch on one thing, because you mentioned you started with Def Leppard at 15 and it consumed your life. And I've asked Phil this before, and I've asked Joe this before, but just quickly on that whole new wave of heavy British metal.
British heavy metal.
British, that's what I'm trying to say. The new wob. You were lumped into that with, Ethel the Frog and Tigers of Pantang and all these sort of strange animal bands. And as soon as you could break out of it and go on and do Photograph and Foo, you just went, we're out. We're not those bands. Was that useful to be part of that movement? Did it help get Def Leppard noticed, or was it like, oh, we got to get away from Ethel the Frog as quickly as possible?
No, I think what you suggested. I think in terms of early days in England, I think it really helped us, and it got us in front of people. But then when we met with Mutt Lange, I think he saw bigger things for Def Leppard, and he saw this crossover, where it wasn't just a rock band, or it wasn't a metal band. It was this crossover where it didn't only attract guys in black t-shirts, but it attracted their girlfriends. And that to me was the major crossover. And then of course you add MTV to the mix, and
off we go.
I think we were up and running, and it became an international thing, and that was really, I think, what Mutt saw in Def Leppard. He didn't just see this sort of local thing. He really wanted to blow the doors off and get us out there to a worldwide audience.
Right.
Just based on what though? Did he just look at Joe and said, "Man, that guy can sing," or was it like, "Wow, these guys can really write songs"? Or did he look at Pete Willis and Steve and go, "Whoa, that's a duo"? Like, what was the part where he just went, "This ain't a pub band. This is a Madison Square Garden band"?
I think he recognized how unique we were, and again, I mean, not necessarily well schooled, but schooled enough to come up with ideas that he thought were really, really, unique, sellable,
right.
And I think he really saw the opportunity to play to a lot of people, and I think that's what Def Leppard have. We're not necessarily the greatest musicians on the planet, but we're a good band. We've worked at it really hard, and spent a lot of time, playing together. And I think to the point where when we put on a show, it's really convincing.
Right.
Oh, it's great.
I also think that the cool thing about, it's interesting. You talk to certain circles of the fandom, And a lot of them, some of them will say, oh, well, Mutt Lange ruined the band. He made them glossy pop, this and that. And I completely disagree, because after speaking to Joe and Phil on so many occasions, they describe it as Mutt found a piece of clay that was willing to be molded into whatever it wanted to be molded into. And that's been the greatest thing about that collaboration, is that you guys wanted to do everything that you did with him.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And, for the absolute diehards, whenever we do smaller shows or the residency type shows in Vegas, then we can dig deeper and play songs that we haven't played in years. But when you're out there, playing these large shows, I think it's good to try to please as many people as possible, and fortunately or unfortunately, whichever way you see it from, that sort of comes with the territory, with getting bigger. So the opportunities are there for the diehard fans, but when we're playing for these big audiences, it's great to be able to play popular music.
I agree. Listen, when I go, I want to hear, Rock Brigade and Hello America. But if you don't play Pour Some Sugar on Me, I'm going home pissed off.
No, I
agree. Whether or not you want to hear it for the 100th time, I do. But, I go, oh, they didn't play Rock Brigade. Fine, but they played Pour Some, I get it. I mean,
Yeah, you got to play the game,
It's like, it's either get Heaven Is or Armageddon. Which one are you going with? It's hard to choose, but we're going to go with Armageddon.
Though Stand Up, Kick Love into Motion should get into the frickin' set list once every 10th show. Just, rotate it in.
There's a couple of songs that haven't really made it to the set list ever, like Stand Up, Kick Love into Motion, or like White Lightning and all this stuff. Do you think at some point you'll revisit those songs that are more B-sides and say, you know what, maybe we should do at a residency, we'll just play an entire set list of these songs that we've never played before live?
Yeah, and that's the opportunity that we have when you get a sort of a captive audience, as it were. You can dig deeper, you can play things that aren't so well known, and that people are really going to appreciate it. So, and as time goes on, we find that we can still dig deeper as we play bigger shows, and it's still totally acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if it comes off of Pyromania, Adrenalize, Hysteria, or even High and Dry, chances are the people in the building will know whatever. I mean, you play Billy's Got a Gun, or they'll go, oh yeah. I remember that.
Well, look,
those albums are so massive.
If I heard that reverse snare, the vroom into, Heaven Is, I'd be like, yes, my head would explode in the arena, Come on. Hey, boys, Miss Magic. Come on, that would be amazing.
Stand Up, Kick Love.
Talking about that record, just to go back to, talking about recording techniques and stuff, how difficult was it to pull off those really cool sonic textures, like the reverse snare drums and all those loops that were going on, and on Adrenalize, because you really took it up a notch. You listen to Let's Get Rocked and all the reverse snares, hits, and all those things. Technically, how difficult was it to pull it off with the technology at the time?
Well, we were getting into creating soundscapes using the loops, and I think that's what kind of drove that, in that direction. Sort of the shuffle feel on the percussion, or the backward snare stuff, all that stuff. It was just it wasn't so common. It tended to be quite sort of standard, as it were.
Would you say it was a bit more? Would you say it was a bit taboo though, because you listen to the other rock bands and they had the cannonball snare here and there, the big reverb, but nobody really took drums to the extent that you did. And that's what I loved about the sound of your drums. They just sounded so unique.
Yeah.
I think the fact that I was forced to move into electronic drums, it kind of gave me license to explore those realms.
Right.
And nobody gave me any pushback for it, because they just kind of, accepted that that was part of playing electronic drums, and I was able to access that not only in the studio, but do that quite easily in a live setting.
Yeah, right.
By the way, I'm just going to throw in one little thing about Adrenalize. I was at the recording of the I Wanna Touch You video. They did that in Ottawa, and it was funny because they played it, and it sounded exactly like the record, perfect. And Joe said, boy, that sounded perfect. You know why? Because we're taping a video, and we actually just played the album for you, but now we're going to play it again live. And I was like, oh, I get to hear it twice. Okay, I'll live with that.
Remember, that's so funny. You just jogged my memory. I remember actually doing that. It seems so surreal,
Yes.
like stopping everything, doing a playback, and then kind of segue into actually playing the song live. That was pretty surreal there.
And it's funny because you could tell that they had the live sound, and then I Wanna Touch You just sounded so clean, and you just went, huh?
You're like, wait,
and then
what?
Joe says, oh, we're doing a video, and now we're gonna, and it was just like, oh, okay.
Smoke and mirrors.
And mirrors. But I remember the sound being like, you had the audience and then I Wanna Touch You was just studio quality. You just went, wait a minute. Did they just lip sync? And then you go, yeah, we just lip synced, and now we're going to play it again.
At least we admitted it. Most bands these days wouldn't even admit it.
No, but it was just great. And of course, not knowing, I thought you do the video and it'll be on MTV tomorrow morning, and then it was like 9 months later, we have a new single. I was like, oh God, I thought they forgot.
Finally.
There it is.
You were at that. You never told me that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, no, that was done in Ottawa on the Adrenalize tour. So I saw them in Montreal like the night before, and I drove, whenever they're in town, I go 100 times. Yeah. And then I went over, and it was just funny because they played that song, and I think it was like one of the first times they ever played it. I don't remember it being played in Montreal, but it was just that dichotomy of like live to just perfect, and you just went,
That's
and then
so
Joe.
cool. That's so cool you had that experience.
Yeah, and then Joe admitted it, and then 9 months later, oh, it's on TV. Oh, look at that.
So, Mitch, are you saying that them performing it live sucked and you preferred the CD version?
No. But you could tell they did whatever before, like whatever, Let's Get Rocked, and it had a rock sound, and it was dirty and live and gritty and sweaty.
Live tone.
And then I Wanna Touch You was just pristine. You just went, that's weird.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's cool. That's cool. Nice story.
Yesterday, we talked to another fellow Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee drummer, Gina Schock from the Go-Go's, who just got in. And
fantastic. Yeah, actually, she got involved with the tail end of the 12 Drummers Drumming auction that we did. And
donated one of her books, right?
Yeah, she's great, man. She's fantastic. And, I wanted to see more women, involved in it. And it was so cool that we got Sheila E.
Yeah,
she's great.
Cindy Blackman got involved. So, it would have been nice to have had more women drummers, but I'm glad she came in right at the end. That was fantastic.
Yeah, we were talking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and just to touch on that really quick. I mean, with your big induction a couple of years ago, I was just wanting to know. I mean, how come Pete wasn't inducted into the Hall of Fame with you guys?
Well, why he didn't show up? Yeah, he was, but he didn't show up.
We asked him, and I think Joe's speech really spoke for itself in terms of anybody that was involved with Def Leppard's success along the way was mentioned in that speech. It was interesting. I think the thing that was such a big deal for us was that it was the largest fan vote in the history of the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
and that to me spoke volumes. Our audience got it. And we always felt as though we didn't get enough love from the industry itself. So, standing on that stage and finally feeling the warmth of rock and roll royalty and everybody sitting in that audience, particularly, our fans.
Yeah.
It was really emotional. I lost it, and I couldn't help it. It was just like, wow. This is huge, I never expected it to make me feel the way that it did, but Trust me, it was that was real.
Yeah, and it's amazing, by the way, because they took a lot of time to get to Def Leppard and to get to Bon Jovi, and they still haven't gotten to Iron Maiden. They still haven't gotten to Foreigner, and you're just like, come on, you're going to tell me that Iron Maiden didn't influence people, and you're going to tell me that the 80s weren't ruled by Bon Jovi and Def Leppard? Like, come on, rock and roll.
No,
who are you kidding?
I think you're right, and I think Cliff Bernstein, who was Def Leppard's manager for many years, and John Bon Jovi, they're both on the board, and from what I can gather, they were very, very instrumental in convincing everybody that Def Leppard should be in the.
Of course, you ruled the 80s.
It's a no-brainer.
You can't look at the 1980s and not think Madonna, U2, Def Leppard, Motley Crue even. You can't.
No, it's true. It's true. And I appreciate you saying that. That's cool, man.
Yeah. No, I immediately think of LL Cool J and Jay-Z to be into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Over Motley Crue.
That's true. And actually, I think we borrowed the idea of the rhythm of Pour Some Sugar on Me from LL Cool J.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, listen. I'm trying to think. What song that could be.
Well, I don't know, but I like the rappers of that day. Run DMC McDaniel's there. He's a great guy. Anyway,
look, the guy's a new addition that wanted to do Belle Biv DeVoe and all that stuff. I mean, jeez, that's the good stuff.
Hey, listen, you weren't born in the 80s. That was all great music on TV back then.
I love that stuff, man. Hey,
I will listen to Billy Ocean and I will listen to Phil Collins, and I'm down. Give it all to me.
Me too. You know what? To me, it's all music. As a musician, I don't experience genres.
No.
I just experience good music and bad music. And it's
I won't even go there. I'll just go. I experience music I like and music I don't like.
There you go. And some of the music that I didn't necessarily like from back then, it's funny. I like it now.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was just because it was from that time period. But I seem to like more and more music as I get older. Yeah. So I guess that's a good thing.
Well, I'll tell you, I have the same experience. I never bought a Tears for Fears record back in the day because it was Tears for Fears and that was the Geeks and the whatever. And I bought a whole bunch of them this year because how are you going to say that everybody or Shout or aren't good? They're good songs.
They're fantastic. Yeah. They're really well-written songs and really well-produced.
But I didn't get it in 1985. Whatever.
Yeah, hey, you know what? Better late than never.
Yeah, that's very true. That's like me with like Avril Lavigne and Maroon 5 when I was in elementary school. It was the biggest thing. But now I didn't love it. Now I love it.
Well, all right. Well, I'm going to go buy a Billy Ocean CD later.
Yeah, fantastic. Actually, Mutt worked with Billy Ocean.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He did a Lover Boy, man. Lover. All the songs.
There you go.
That was the greatest song.
Get out of my dreams, get into my car.
Caribbean Queen. Come on, these are all the great stuff. And of course, Def Leppard.
Yeah.
I have often said that High and Dry is my favorite Def Leppard record just because when you put it on, you just cannot stop listening to it because they flow so perfectly one into the other. But of course, everybody says, well, no, Hysteria is better or Pyro. There's always that argument. Where does your heart lie in terms of the records? Not maybe best, but which is the one we just went, yeah, you know what? That was a moment for me. That, another hit and run is just fucking perfect.
I know exactly what you mean. I mean, there was, for quite a while there, we would play the whole of side one.
Yeah.
And because of the fact that everything flowed so well into...
Yeah, you can't cut them up. You can't make a playlist with that album. You have to.
They all belong together as a collection of songs.
Yeah.
So I think I feel the same way about that record in terms of not just from a listening perspective, but from a playing perspective. But I think it's true to say that you always fall in love with the record, the latest record that you release. And I guess it stands to reason because, you know, it's the latest thing you've done, and you want everybody to love it as much as you do. So it tends to go that way. But then when I look back, I think one of the songs that really just puts a really fine point on everything is the song Hysteria. I think the song Hysteria for me is just such a beautiful song. And I know a lot of people see the connection to a girl, but to me, it's more about being in love with a higher power, which sounds a little woo-hoo. But that to me, especially having gone through what I went through making that record, that song just seems to put a crown on everything.
Yeah, and Phil's done it with Delta Deep, and you just know when a song's good when other interpretations still just work. You just listen to it, you go, yep, that's still good.
Yeah, it's a good song.
That's a good song. It just is.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
Rick, do you remember what hi-hats you used on Hysteria?
That's such a geeky question. That's fantastic. I think I was still using the Sound Edge.
The Pisces.
I think so. Or maybe at that point I'd moved over to the equivalent of Sound Edge with Zildjian. But yeah, I kind of I did the rounds, you know, with the cymbals, and I love the consistency of the Pisces cymbals. It was like if you broke one, the new one that you bought always sounded the same. Whereas Zildjian, they have their own personalities. So you really have to go and listen to them and really pick them out. You know, personally pick them out. You can't just send somebody to the store and say, "Oh, go get me this," and you know, expect it to sound the same. So I love both cymbals, but I do find that the Zildjians tend to be a little more individual.
Right. Were they the 2002 Sound Edge, or were they like the Rudes?
I used the Rudes, and they were just brutal. I think that's probably one of the reasons I can't hear very well.
Yeah.
By the way, welcome to Geek Time with Jeremy.
Yes, yeah. Well, listen, these are the questions that drummers always want to ask, man.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so interesting. Well, I was always curious about that. Well, like, what kind of hi-hats are you? Because they have especially after the EQ'd in the mix, it's like all that top end, like the sizzle that gets added.
No, I know. Well, now you're not going to lose any more sleep, man.
Yeah. Now I know. So there were Sound Edge hi-hats on Hysteria. Do you remember what cymbals you were using? 16-inch 2002?
No, I know. No, actually, I think by Hysteria, I was firmly in the Zildjian camp. I think with pretty much everything. So yeah, sorry to break that to you, but
the last album that you talk about, of course, was Def Leppard with Man Enough, which I happen to love as a song.
Yeah.
Where are we in terms of the next new one? Because the fan bases are like, 2022.
Yeah, Rick, are you done tracking the new album, or you still got some overdubs to do?
Something coming out before the stadium tour?
No, I know. Here's the thing: there's always new music on the go with Def Leppard. It's just whether it makes it to a collection. But songs are being produced all the time, particularly with the age of technology and not necessarily having to be in the same room as the other person. So I mean, obviously there's stuff that I can't talk about, but in the not too distant future, I'm sure people are going to get to hear new music.
Is a collection still important, though? Can you just put out like 4 songs and just say, here you go? I mean, do we need to still do 12? Or can we just sort of say, listen, we got 3, we got a stadium tour, go enjoy these, and we'll get back to you later?
We go back and forth as a band all the time, where we're like, well, maybe we should just release a few. and at least get things moving. But then the old school in us will be like, we've always done it that way. So why change now?
I agree.
But, I guess it depends how old you are. I think some music lovers would be happy just to cherry pick everything, and not necessarily from the same band.
Yeah. Well, I like the way you've done it, because every album has been a statement. You listen to, Adrenalize, and it's a statement of whatever, the early 90s. You listen
to X, and it's like,
I
really
like
is.
X. X was a fantastic record.
Yeah.
All those people that slam it are just nonsense sellers, because it's a fabulous record. It's slick. It's sugary sweet.
Look, Rick was doing his best Phil run on 4-letter word. I mean, what more do you want?
No, it's cool, and I appreciate you saying that it makes a statement, because I remember listening to remixes of Zeppelin records, and hearing the songs out of order. And it threw me for a loop.
Yeah,
it just didn't feel right. Like you were describing High and Dry, the way those songs fit together perfectly. My brain, it didn't compute, because I was hearing these songs out of order, and for whatever reason, it just didn't hit me in the same way.
Yeah, the same when I listen to Adrenalize. I need to hear "Let's Get Rocked Into Heaven" and to "Make Love Like a Man" tonight.
That's cool.
It's that sequence. It's funny because Adele just had Spotify change their whole thing for her new album. She had them remove the shuffle button, so you have to listen to her album in its entirety from top to bottom, the way it flows.
Oh, they removed it. That was fun.
Yeah. She had them remove it. She's like, listen, us artists, we put out the record, we make our track listing flow in the way we want it to. We don't want you, skipping, going to this and that. You listen to it the way it's meant to be listened to.
That's cool.
It is. And by the way, Perfect Girl should have been on X, not Gravity. Just saying.
Yes.
Just saying.
Throwing that out there.
Just gonna put that out there. That's all.
Rick's slowly realizing how crazy fans we are.
I know.
No, it's great. I love it, man. This is fantastic. This is how. When I read up about your show, and I realized that I've known you guys forever.
Yeah.
I was actually really excited to come on with you guys.
Well, it's funny. I went to the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp during the Hysteria residency in Vegas, and
oh my god,
I was there. I played on stage with you, and I did the whole thing. I got to try your drum kit, which was really cool.
That's so cool.
Mitch, Rick is the reason for me getting yelled at so much in high school, because I was just playing with my feet, one arm with the Sharpie on the desk, man, doing the groove. So I got behind his kit. I was like at home.
That's great. Now my last Rick memory was in Quebec City at the Centre Videotron. I was hanging out with Troy Lucetta, and then afterwards, at the end of the show, we all went and stood by the buses, and it was Troy talking to Rick, and I was just sitting there going, "This works for me."
Fantastic.
Yeah, this works for me.
Man.
Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
there you go.
Look, next summer we'll all have a hang. It'll be fun.
That'll be great. I look forward to that.
The stadium tour.
All right, Rick. Well, listen, this
Sounds
was
great.
awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Well,
All right.
Say hello to everyone up there, and I just I really appreciate you guys, and thanks for giving me the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for giving us an hour. Sometimes it's cut and run after 15 minutes, but this is, hey, there you go.
No gatekeeper listening in, telling us to shut up. This was
No,
great.
it's cool. Just make me sound great, make me sound clever.
Oh, that's not hard to do. Come on.
I'm sure you've got plenty of material there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Rick, you've said it all. Anything else? Anything else before we go?
No, I'm just looking forward to a nice day here in Central California.
All right, Rick.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you later.
Cheers.
All right.
An all-new episode of the Jeremy White Podcast, Tuesday at noon. Available wherever you stream. Catch up on past interviews and episodes on demand now. Subscribe so you don't miss any of it.